Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All Things West Ham on the West Ham Way YouTube channel. Before we introduce today's guest and talk about all things West Ham, just a little reminder about joining the West Ham Way Patreon, where for just £5 a month, you'll receive regular and exclusive transfer news from X, podcasts with Martin Allen and Jimmy Walker, and a new monthly column from Tony Cottee. Details of how to join are showing up on the banner at the bottom of the video. So for today's episode, we are joined by four very familiar faces in Bill, Charles, Jeff and Dennis. Lads, thanks very much for coming on today. How are you all doing?
Good, mate.
Yeah, fine, thanks. Would be better if we beat Brighton, but so be it.
you had to mention it. Just got it out of my head.
Absolutely. So obviously, as I said there in the intro, we've got quite a lot to catch up with since the last show. And we're going to kick things off today with a little look back on the victory against Viborg in the Conference League. Just sort of get the lads' sort of thoughts on the game and sort of looking ahead to the second leg. We're recording this on Wednesday evening, so looking ahead to the second leg tomorrow. So, Bill, we'll come to you first on this one. What did you think, first of all, of the performance? And did anyone in particular stand out for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was decent enough win. Viborg were very game, especially their fans, I think 600 fans or whatever it was. They were fantastic throughout, but decent enough win. Professional performance wasn't outstanding, but not equally not that terrible either. We did enough to win. Good to see, obviously, Scamacca score his first goal. That was a great assist by Cornet to turn his marker inside out and to put on an absolute peach for a cross. I mean, Scamacca was never going to miss that, was he? But I think in terms of who stood out, I thought young Ashby at right back really stood out for me. I thought he was very good. I think Cornet on his first start looked pretty good, and obviously Scamacca in his brief sub appearances has looked pretty good. But to obviously see him from the start and get a deserved goal was great. I thought, especially in the second half, I thought Coventry looked pretty impressive, I've got to say as well. So a good win. There was a bit of a wobble when Viborg got their goal, and then for the next sort of 5-10 minutes afterwards, it looked decent actually. So it was good, obviously, for Mickey Antonio to get the third goal after a brilliant assist by Sidebearer Moura. But professional performance, decent enough, and at least there's a 2-goal head start going into the second leg.
Yeah, definitely. And Jeff, obviously, Bill's just touched on Cornet and Scamacca there. Obviously, they combined for the first goal. Do you kind of feel, based on their performance in obviously the Viborg game, and obviously looking at our performances to date in the league, that maybe they have done enough maybe to earn a place in the league team coming up on Sunday?
Well, I don't know about whether it's the case of them having done enough. I don't think the players that are in the starting 11 have done enough to keep their spots. So yeah, they should be getting in the team at the weekend. As for the Viborg game, I thought we was all right, weren't we? I think for a good chunk of the game, we kind of looked evenly matched against Viborg, and I started thinking, hang on a second, we at home, we want to be getting three or four goals against a side like that to go, so we haven't got any scares in the second leg, and got there in the end. But I thought it was a bit clunky at times. I thought Coventry was decent enough in midfield. Ashby, I slightly disagree with Bill. I actually felt he looked a little bit nervous going forward, and that so many times he had an opportunity to cross the ball and he just put his foot on it and then passed backwards. He wasn't very progressive. I thought he'd probably be a bit disappointed when he watches that back, really. I mean, going up against weaker opposition, he could have really had a go, and I don't think he did. But yeah, all told, it was all right. Is that the right guys got on the score sheet, which is good. It's a shame, obviously, that confidence wasn't carried forward into the weekend. But they done the job. It was professional enough, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And you obviously just mentioned Connor Coventry there, and Charles, I'll come to you on this. Obviously, Jeff felt that he played pretty well. How did you feel that he played? Obviously, there's been quite a lot of West Ham supporters that have been saying, Connor Coventry's got to be given an opportunity. Did he take it, or is the jury still out on him?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jeff. I was actually listening to X and Dave yesterday on the podcast, and I think X summed it up perfectly when he was talking about Connor Coventry. I think for some reason everyone expects him to be Declan Rice level after only a couple of games in and everything like that. I think it's just ridiculous. I think Declan Rice himself was not the fastest to get going when he started out for us. So it's only fair that we give Connor the same sort of treatment. And I think it's just ridiculous that some people are saying after one performance that I think he did pretty well in. It wasn't an 8 or 9 out of 10 performance. It's more of a 6.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
But he looked very comfortable. And to be honest, we'll probably come on to it a little bit more later on. But when you've got a midfield partner who's so out of form and just not performing well, and to the strengths of someone like Connor Coventry or Declan Rice, then you're essentially covering another position in itself. So I saw nothing that stood out to me as being quite wrong with his performance. So I mean, the last few days have shown us that West Ham fans do get fickle about sort of every little kind of negative that's around the club. But I think Colin Coventry had a fine game. He wasn't a standout or anything, but I think you give him more minutes, and I think he'll prove his worth, and he'll come good.
Yeah, for me, so sorry guys, but I think he got better as the game went on. I think I think he's pretty, tried to be on Souček's level. I think the first half we were too slow with the ball. I think them two in particular were really guilty of it. And then second half, Coventry's got a bit more confidence, and his passing was a lot better and a lot quicker, less touches on the ball than in the first half. And I think I think Coventry outperformed Souček on the night, and it looked like Coventry was the more experienced seasoned pro rather than Souček.
Agree there with probably with the performance level between Coventry and Souček on the night. I think Souček for most of it looked gone missing. I think it's fair to say. But Dennis, obviously 3-1. We should progress to the group stages, shouldn't we? We're not going to end up with a infamous cup upset that West Ham unfortunately are very well known for over the years.
Well, now you've said that, you know what's going to happen. Eh? This will be uploaded like a half time when we're already 3-0 down. Thomas Souček has two-footed a player. Scamacca's missed an open goal. That will happen tomorrow now. But no, we should, being serious, we should be able to see it out. I can't, if it was just one goal and if away goals counted, as I learned last year, that away goals don't count anymore. I actually think it's a bit ridiculous it doesn't count anymore, but if it favours us, it favours us. I can't see us really throwing this away personally. I do worry the logic of, for example, what our lineups, because we keep hearing Scamacca's not ready to start, but yet he looked fit as a fiddle and ran Viborg absolutely rapid. And I watched the first leg, with sat next to Charles, and we said that Viborg may not be world beaters, but they're no slouches either. They'd probably be top of the championship, I'd say, definitely, if not relegation for the Premier League. They gave us a good game despite the scoreline, and Scamacca ran them ragged. They didn't quite know what to do. Compare that to, I know we'll talk about it later, but compare that to how we started in all of our league games. It's a bit ridiculous, really. So I do worry that we're going to start the players that really should be starting in the league tomorrow night, and then say, well, they're too tired for the Premier League now. Shucks, guys. Guess it's Mickey again. No disrespect to Mickey. Just saying that I think Scamacca should have started against Brighton, that's all. I have to agree completely with Coventry. I mean, he got absolutely poleaxed in the first 10 minutes by one of their centre mids, and I think that sort of shook him into life a little bit. And from then onwards, he was a lot more composed. The outrage on Twitter was a bit ridiculous. There's certain accounts that will have an agenda no matter what. We will cover agendas later. But I really was a little bit sickened that, a youth player finally getting his chance against probably the toughest opposition he's ever played against, barring his 10-minute cameo against City. And I think he held himself really well, let down by Souček's poor form and decision-making. just to caveat Charles's point, 'cause that's one of the points I wanted to raise, really. But yeah, we should see it out. I'd take a boring goalless draw, no injuries, no nonsense tomorrow night.
Great stuff. So obviously we played Viborg, and then obviously on Sunday, as we all know, we were at home against Brighton, a team that we haven't beaten since the Championship days when we won 6-0 with a Vazte hat trick. Jeff, just reminding you there of that one in case you're struggling to remember that far back. And we're going to come to you first on this particular game. So, as the banner says, what went wrong?
How long you got, Mark?
I mean, I wasn't expecting a lot out of the game. I wasn't completely confident that we were going to get anything. In the first place, it's just the curse, ain't it? I think the players feel it. We feel it. It's just the way it is. There was just. I don't think there was a single player on the pitch that could have been happy with their performance. Really, we were completely overrun in midfield. That was kind of, I felt, where the issues were. Pretty toothless up front. Mickey would just seem to be constantly out wide, and then there's no one in the middle. It didn't make any sense to me at all. Suchik, terrible, absolutely awful. But I mean, really, the dunce of the day was Zuma. I thought both goals were on him. I felt bad on the new centre half, Kera, because first of all, it didn't look like he touched Welbeck for the penalty, and secondly, it wasn't in the box anyway. I don't know how VAR have looked at that and gone with a penalty. It all seems very strange. So I felt that for his full debut in the Premier League, he really got thrown under the bus a little bit. So I did feel for him. That being said, I don't think Zuma's fit. I think something's not right with him. I've never seen him. He's running at half pace. He's limping around. He doesn't look happy at all. So I don't want to throw him under the bus or sort of judge him too harshly, because he's trying to carry the load for everyone, isn't he, at the moment? So that's fair enough. But regardless of the VAR or the penalty, we didn't deserve anything from that game at all. It was woeful, to be quite frank.
Yeah, totally agreed with you there. And obviously, Dennis, as Jeff just mentioned, with the penalty, obviously given away by our new centre-half, Kerha. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Probably got that wrong, but hey-ho. He obviously gave that away, which I thought in real time, watching it at home, looked very harsh. And as Jeff just said there, I'm not quite sure how VAR came to that conclusion. But forgetting that incident for a moment, how did you feel like the rest of his game was? Did you see enough there from him? Sorry, to sort of like say, yeah, do you know what? I like the look of him, and he's going to be a key component of David Moyes' team. Yeah,
I mean, depending on your accent, it's Kera or Kera, depending on how strong, how American your German accent is. Do have a lot of connections in Germany and sort of a miniature Bundesliga, know it all. Thing is his range of passing was what impressed me. Him and Aguerd, they're, as ball playing centre backs, are going to be immense in a back three if we do get there in the end. What's also important is he can play either full back but stronger on the left, and especially in a wing back position. And with the pace he showed in his debut against Viborg and ball playing ability, no doubt that I reckon if we do go to free it back, he might even be playing left wing back if Emerson doesn't adapt to the Premier League, which is what I saw in one of the tweets. So I can't take full credit for that joke. But certainly was, I mean, he was hung out to dry by Zuma, thinking he's prime Beckenbauer. We all know number 15 is Beckenbauer. And coming forward with two horrendous gaffes, really. A little bit element of sympathy with Zuma for the first one, because on another day we could have won a free kick there, if we were wearing different coloured shirts and maybe a top six side, But the second one was pretty much inexcusable. Second goal for Zuma's mistake. But certainly fans on Twitter writing him off after that, including some journalists I saw saying that he had a stinking debut. I thought it was the opposite. I thought he was the heart of our defence and let down by his, probably injured, more Premier League experienced, more expensive, higher waged counterpart in Zuma. So that's my 2 pence on it. I think he's going to be a very good addition, very versatile, and he's going to add an element of spreading the ball about, which we're lacking really at centre back.
Yeah, totally agree there. And just sort of looking ahead slightly after the game, Charles, what did you make of Declan Rice's post-match comments, where he obviously commented on the fans obviously booed the players off the pitch at half-time, obviously again at full-time, and obviously he was saying that we have to be realistic. We're not going to win the league. We're not Man City. How did you take that?
I mean, I get what he was saying. I think he put it in less than ideal terms. Let's put it that way. I think what he was trying to say was essentially, we're not at that stage yet. We're not the team that has the unlimited amount of funds and everything like that, and we have world-class players in every position and on the bench and everything like that. I think that's what he's trying to get at. I know Noble said something to sort of similar vein a couple of years ago, and he was kind of crucified for that as well. But I mean, he's not exactly wrong. I think the worrying part of the statement was coming out of a performance like that. If we were playing City, for example, I think that comment may have been more sort of like, right, we've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go to get up to these guys' standards. But the fact is, we're playing Brighton. We weren't playing City, and Brighton, as good as they are, and certainly as good as they were on the day, they're not an invincible team. They're a team that can be beaten with the right tactics and the right mindset. And I think that's the worrying part. I mean, when you lose someone as sort of as strong as a leader as someone like Mark Noble, there is a void in that dressing room. And even when Noble was at the club, that throughout the years, you can pinpoint leaders in that dressing room, whether it be Scott Parker or James Collins or Kev Nolan. There's always been that sort of leader. And to be honest, looking at the team now, I know Declan did sort of take over the captain's armband last year, but he still had Nobes in the dressing room with him. I think he's still sort of coping and / struggling with that kind of duty. And I think he will grow. He will grow into knowing what a leader needs to do. And if you ask any pundit on any sports program, everyone assumes that he's going to be the next England captain one day, and I don't doubt that at all. I think he's got everything in the locker to make that happen. But yeah, I thought the comment was unnecessary. I know what he was trying to say, but it was said in less than ideal terms. But the more worrying thing that comes out of that is the mentality of the players, because if the players feel like, oh, it's City, don't worry, we can lose to them because we're not at their standard, then, that's a worrying trend. And I would hope that, with the amount of figures such as Moyes and Nolan and Warburton in the staff, on that staff, hopefully they can nip that in the bud as soon as possible, because we proved last year that we can beat anyone on our day. We beat Chelsea, we beat Liverpool. It can be done, but that mentality has got to sharpen up for sure for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree with you more. Really, I think the mentality has got to sharpen up, and that kind of like brings me kind of a little bit, Bill, onto the sort of the current performances of our two Czechmates. Obviously, Tom Souček and Kufal. Their performances for a while really been polarising opinions. Amongst the fan base now for quite a while. What do you think has gone wrong? Is that criticism justified? Or are they playing better than maybe what they're being given credit for?
Well, I think with Soufal, I think he's just like going through a dodgy couple of games. But with Souček, it's obviously this is nothing new. Sort of second half of last season, his form really dipped. Wasn't offering a lot to our side, either offensively or even defensively. And I mean, a lot goes on about he's not scoring as much. Yeah, that's fine. That is a fact. But also, there's more to his game. What's that noise? There's more to his game than just getting headers at the back post. When he's been playing well, he's been getting the tackles in, making interceptions, winning headers defensively. In front of the back four and that. And at the moment, he's not doing any of that. The amount of times he fell over the ball on Sunday, I lost count. And similar to like the Viborg home game, his passing was really slow and sluggish and slowed our play down. So unfortunately, the the criticism is justified with him. If it was Soufal, I think there's obviously more to come. But the thing is, we've got options behind him. You got Johnson and Ashby behind him. So if he's not stepping up to the plate and not playing to his best, which he isn't, then I think obviously alternatives have got to be sought from the bench.
So, I don't know if you've seen, but Moyes' press conference before the game tomorrow, obviously, Soufal's got concussion. So, under the protocols, he can't play for 6 days. So, obviously, he definitely won't be playing tomorrow. So, who would you start then out of Johnson or Ashby tomorrow?
Well, Johnson for me. Obviously, he's played most of the games this season. Also, when he come on Sunday against Brighton, I think he looked pretty impressive, actually. If there was hardly any crumbs to come from it at all, as Jeff said earlier. But I thought Johnson, when he came on, I thought he looked decent, actually. So, obviously, buzzing that he's playing in his actual position for the first time in a while. So, I'd play Johnson. Yeah. Obviously, he scored against Villa last season impressively. So, yeah, you have good memories of Villa Park. So
I remember that one.
I'd play Johnson both against Viborg second again and Villa on Sunday.
Great stuff. So I'm going to come on now to David Moyes. There seems to be on the West Ham Twitter for some reason a bit of a campaign calling for Moyes to be sacked. Dennis, is this talk a little bit premature? Obviously, we've had a pretty poor start, haven't we? Obviously, without unquestionable three defeats, no goals, bottom of the league, but still a bit early.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous situation. Personal anecdote here. I tweeted saying that anyone saying Moyes out after that Brighton performance needs to go back to January 2020 after we played Brighton and have their head checking. And then I got I got a DM calling me a simp for GSB, and I'm like, what? I'm a simp for GSB because I don't want the manager that got us European football 2 years in a row sacked after 3 defeats. Okay, mate. And I'm as GSB out as I go. I got the GSB out T-shirt and everything.
Dennis, there's no need to leak my DMs to everyone.
Oh, mate. You'll be delighted to hear this was an account with loads of numbers at the end and no picture. So
just an egg.
One of them. To quote Andy Townsend, but it is quite frankly ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, he's not beyond reproach, he's not beyond criticism, but if I ask him to go, really, there's people saying I'll get Sean Dyche in right away. Sean Dyche is a top manager in my opinion, but you don't throw away David Moyes after what he's done. So admittedly, I think he should be playing more of the signings, but they do need time to settle. Scamacca's been here for about 3.5 weeks? Yeah, 3.5 weeks. It was the day we landed in Benidorm that he signed for us, could he be starting? Absolutely, but I don't see him, fitting in with the way he plays and taking time to adjust. It's not FIFA, believe it or not, and it's definitely not Football Manager, as I like to remind people. We got Villa at the weekend. There's a lot of criticism around Gerrard. I see Villa fans and Leicester fans also tweeting their managers to go. It's not a purely West Ham United problem. It's a Twitter problem, sadly.
And Liverpool fans.
Oh, yeah. Liverpool fans with Klopp out. I know an incredibly angry Liverpool fan after that Manchester United defeat. It has been hilarious, as annoying as the United fans have been. But ultimately, it's the first 3 games. We're not going to win every game. We're going to lose 3 games in the season. It just so happens to be the first 3. It's Brighton, a really Brighton's. I consider Brighton similar with City being a free hit. And Forest was one of the most unluckiest games I've ever seen. Again, would I have done things differently if I was manager? Absolutely. But then again, if I was manager, we'd probably still have Sebastian Haller up front. Maybe, just saying for context. No. But the point I'm making there is I'm going to get stuff wrong. To a quote that you might like, which I've just come into my head, Mark, is that sunshine always follows thunder. So I'm sure all this turmoil is going to turn around, and we're going to smash Villa 5-0, and suddenly he's going to be the Messiah again.
Yeah, definitely. Charles. Obviously, as we said, they're disappointing starts of the season. So how can Moyes turn it around? Is it going to be obviously there's been rumours for a little while that we're going to be playing three at the back, with wing backs this year. Is it as simple as just changing the formation, or is it more going to be a case of let's change one or two of the of the personnel?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, really, because I think as far as playing a back four is concerned, it obviously hasn't gone well so far at the start of this season. And you could put it down to the fact that I think a lot of teams, Ben Johnson pointed it out earlier in an interview, that a lot of teams are starting to kind of figure us out, starting to find the strengths that we had last season. And the one thing that I really want Moyes to change is this idea of just literally like having possession between the back 4 or 5 or whatever it is for solid 2 minutes, and then just booting the ball up, and then Antonio's nowhere to be seen, and we just lose possession so easily. It really pisses me off whenever that happens. So that needs to change. But in terms of just sort of the general way that we're playing, I think we've got the personnel. Certainly now that we signed Emerson and people like Cornet and people like that, I think we've got the personnel to play with wing backs. I think that should be potentially looked at, even maybe for the Viborg game tomorrow, just to see how it works out. But yeah, we've got to spruce things up. We can't stay stagnant. We've got to change it, whether it be tactically, or any other way. But I think another thing that's held us back, and again, I feel like we're going to be sounding like a broken record today with the amount of times we say this guy's name, but I feel like Souček does not suit the way that Moyes wants to play. I think what Moyes wants to do, he wants to get this kind of high tempo, nice passing, high pressing sort of identity. That's what he wants to install in the team. But someone like Souček does not fit that mold. If you look at how City, the type of players that they recruit and they get into their system, it's people that have speed, that have stamina, that are relentless. And Souček, we know his downfalls. We know that he's basically just a sort of a battering ram for us. Who I think even you said, Dennis, the other day, I think a lot of his downfalls have been covered up by the fact that he was scoring goals last year. I think you might have said it as well, Mark.
Yeah.
The fact that he was scoring goals covered up those sort of weak spots in his game. And now that he's not scoring, we're starting to notice those weak spots a lot more. So, realistically, back to the question, I think a lot of things have got to change from these first 3 games. But I think especially the tactics need to be a little bit more trickier for the opposition to guess. And if we are thinking of playing in that more attacking, sort of high pressing, high tempo style, then we need the personnel to do it. And that means, unfortunately, someone like Souček needs to be dropped.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, one of the criticisms of Moyes, Jeff, has obviously been the use of his substitutions in games. I mean, normally he brings them on with maybe like 5-10 minutes or so to go, and obviously not really enough of an impact for them to make in the game. Obviously, this year they've brought in the new rule with the 5 substitutions this season. So have there been any signs for you that Moyes is actually trying to be a little bit more proactive in using the strength that we've now got a little bit more on the bench, or do you think he's more just sort of a bit more of a hopeful punt from him to try and change the course of the game?
Well, it's obviously refreshing to see him making substitutions in the 60th minute. I think Scamacca had his bib off and was ready to come on in the sort of 55th minute of the weekend. And then we had a little flurry, didn't we? We were putting a bit of pressure on, created a couple of chances. Ironically, I think it was Souček with a good couple of chances with his head. And then he ended up coming on in sort of 61st, 62nd minute. But I think, looking at the bigger picture, that we've not just lost three games this season. We've been crap since January. We've won 1 Premier League game out of 10. Yet we're still picking the exact same. We've spent 100 million quid. We're still picking the same 11 and playing exactly the same way. And you just think, like we used to with the substitutions, where we used to think, just please get on with it, like just change something. And he wouldn't, and he'd just wait and wait. And it feels like he's doing that again, but with the new signings. I mean, Cornet doesn't need time to adjust. Just get him in. Skamaka looks fitter than a lot of them. Get him in. Like, it's not working, so let's change it and get on with it. So it is infuriating, but obviously it's way premature to be Moyes out or anything like that. But I tell you what, if we don't get anything against Villa, then we're up against Spurs, and then I think Chelsea. If it ends up 6 games without a point, or 6 games 1 point, something like that, dating back to January, I think he's walking a tightrope.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Bill, Jeff just touched on it there about, the new signings that we've made, 130 odd million, I think we've spent in the window in total. So, I mean, do you think that Moyes, that Jeff's right effectively, that we should be looking to throw in, some of these new signings, or is there an element, is Moyes right in sticking with the same players and having a little bit of loyalty? Obviously, we've all seen it in the past with, fans complaining about players not being loyal. But is Moyes going too far the other way?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine going with players that that are familiar, but at the end of the day, it's getting results. So, and at the moment, as Jeff rightly says, since January, our form has really dipped. So, there's no point getting these new signings in if you're not going to play them. I think Skamaka's arguably been our best player this season in all the games. So, for me, he's got to start now. Now that doesn't necessarily mean drop Antonio. You can play both up front together, because I think Bowen, his form has really dropped off. So he's not a guaranteed start at the moment. In fact, none of them are really. I think the only ones who've shown any modicum of form have been Skamaka, Cornet, and probably Fabianski, I'd say. Everyone else.
And Ben Rama.
And Ben Rama, sorry, yeah. So them 4, everyone else, even Declan, do you know what I mean? They all need to step up their form. So I think what's been a huge problem has been the injury to Aguerd. That's been a massive problem, because, obviously we had the injuries with Ogbonna and Dawson, and, they are going to be, I mean, if Aguerd was fit and maybe one of the others, then maybe Zuma would have more time to recover, and you wouldn't have to play Ben Johnson as a centre-back. With a, I know obviously our attack in the Premier League's been obviously terrible. Obviously, no goals in 3 games, but our defence hasn't been very good either, has it? So, so if we ever, got to have those foundations to build on. So if Aguerd was fit from the start, I think he would have made it. I think Kera. I think I agree. I think he looked pretty decent actually. I think some of the journos were way too overboard with the challenge and all that. I think they were looking at a wrong game personally. I think he looked good with his left foot. He's obviously pretty quick as well. I think for his first game, considering how many days he'd have to train, a couple of days. Yeah, I think he actually acquitted himself reasonably well. Actually, I've got to say. So I think to have him, play okay apart from the challenge, obviously whatever. Apart from that, to have him in from the start, ready and fit to play, I think that's really good. So, Moyes obviously doesn't mind throwing players in, but I think I was more concerned about what Moyes said about Downs actually after the match. I think that was quite concerning. He obviously doesn't feel he's ready at the moment, which is I can understand. But surely even he's better than what Souček's producing at the moment. So I think definitely Skamaka's got to at least start the game and possibly Cornet as well. But it's all right being loyal to players, but you've got to get results. And at the moment, we're just not getting them.
Yeah, I think Downs would have played against Viborg, but I mean he picked up a toe injury, didn't he, in training? I know he come on for 5-10 minutes or so, but I think it is, as you say, a bit of a worry making comments like that. Fair enough if you're going to say that to him behind, in the dressing room or whatever. But I'm not sure that we as a group of supporters necessarily need to know that at this moment in time. Personally, I was
more worried about the, as Charles mentioned and Jess mentioned earlier, the lack of patterns of play was so alarming against Brighton. I mean, it was awful actually. Yeah, we'd pass the ball around for a bit and then lump it forwards up to Antonio. I mean, not even the crossfield ball in the channel, or at least do something different. I mean, it was just, I'll tell you what, Veltman, Dunk and Webster had the easiest game they'll have this season. easiest game they'll have, and Sanchez in goal actually as well. The amount of times the crosses would come in the box and they'd just head it nonchalantly back to Sanchez. I mean, Jeff mentioned a couple of chances for Souček. I mean, quite frankly, they're straight at him, so I'm not really counting them. So, where were the other shot? A couple of deflected efforts, okay, but like
camera saves, Sanchez made those saves look so much better than they were.
Jersey Dudek specials. The passing was really, really poor, and I'm not expecting us to outplay teams like Brighton. I mean, the way they outplay teams is phenomenal, but like at least pass the ball to each other, one touch. We did a little bit of that at the start of the second half, and then we just got revert back to lumping out the pitch. So that for me, that was probably the worst 90-minute performance for quite some time. We've had bad first halves and second halves, etc. Bad 20 minutes in games, but not for a 90 minutes. So that was a real worry.
Yeah. I just want to add in for Brighton, because obviously said beforehand is for starters, the attitude of fans were calling for Scamacca, because I'm in the West Stand right behind the bench, and honestly, like everyone was clueless, including some members of the bench, as to why Scamacca was then told to carry on warming up for a couple of minutes. He was stripped and ready to come on, and then someone, I don't even think it was David Moyes, I think it was I can't remember his name, Paul.
Nevin.
Paul Nevin. I think Paul Nevin then instructed him to go back up the touchline. And then when he came back and took his vest off, entire West Ham just stood up and started sarcastically applauding. And as much as I said before, I'm not Moyes out, but if an entire stadium, quarter of the stadium is sarcastically applauding a substitution that should have started, and this is nothing really on Mickey. I don't think Mickey. I mean, there's no end product, but I don't think Mickey could have done any more. Really, like we're saying about the service, I
felt so sorry for him. Him against them three centre backs, he had no chance to win any of those balls.
He had no chance. He did everything. He did everything. Anything that's beyond his ability, which is no disrespect to him, but he is no Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He is not peak Alan Shearer. Like, he's not going to win anything in that situation, sadly. But yeah, like Antonio was just so ill-suited to that game. Scamacca should have been starting, because when Scamacca came on, they absolutely had it up him. I think they had 2 men on him for most of the game. They knew he was a threat, and that was probably I think they had that lineup anticipating Scamacca starting, if I'm honest.
Not according to some people on Twitter, Dennis, who said that he looks like he's going to be Allaire version 2 already, even though he's played less than 90 minutes.
Probably by the way Moyes is going to treat him, not so much how he's going to play himself.
I mean,
less of the Haller slander. He's gone. You leave him alone.
I think he's played better than Haller has anyway.
I mean, honestly, I have not seen. It's so refreshing to see a striker with like energy and chasing things down and a great touch as well. I mean, the sooner we get him, I mean, I'm hoping Moyes realizes that Antonio is not our starting striker. He isn't in terms of the
not on his own anyway.
Not in his own, exactly. But yeah, I think Bill, I think that's the like most negative I've ever heard you be about a performance about West Ham. There's always like some positive from you. That's when you know things are bad. Is when Bill.
But you can only obviously see what you analyze what you see, and
I completely agree, mate. Honestly, I agree with every word you said.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're spot on, lads. To be fair, I think that Moyes has, he's definitely got to change something. We can't, obviously, we can't carry on this this current vein of form that we're on. So, obviously, now we've got just over a week to go until the transfer window shuts. And obviously, in the last 24 hours or so, we've just signed Emerson from Chelsea for about 13 million, with a couple of million with add-ons. So, Charles, are you happy with this particular signing? And does that mean that that's going to be the end of Aaron Creswell, was kind of like the first choice left back?
God, I'm so happy with this signing. Honestly, I mean, I saw something the other day saying the kind of the money that we've spent for left back over the last 2 decades or something like that, and I think it's less than £15 million in total, something like that. Look, Cresswell, you know what I'm going to say. He's been a great servant for the club. He's been loyal. He's been great. He's been great as a player as well for the majority of those years. He's been really, really good. And even the first half of last season, I thought he was really he was showing some really great improvement from the season before. But
Yeah.
Whatever happened in the second half happened. I mean, look, we all know that we were all still feeling a bit angry at him for the Frankfurt sending off. I think that's going to take a while for us to recover from. But there's no doubt that he's technically a very good player. I think age is not being kind to him in terms of pace. I think his pace is certainly slowing down, especially for the levels that we need to be seeing at this, in this sort of modern era of football. So having said all those positives, he really doesn't look great or comfortable, especially in the back four. And I think someone like Emerson challenging that position is going to be very, very good for us. I think. We saw glimpses of him when they played, when Lyon played us in the Europa League, and he looked pretty decent. He's obviously got great pedigree. Was a Euro winner with Italy. Chelsea thought he was good enough to sign him. I don't know how many appearances he ended up making for them, but I know Lyon fans spoke pretty highly of him during his loan spell last season. So yeah, I think it's a much needed signing. I think we'll hopefully see him start a West Ham game in about January or February, judging by Moyes' sort of schedule of bedding players in.
He needs time to adapt. He needs time to adapt to the Premier League.
FA Cup third round. This is debut.
To be fair, he does need time to adapt from coming from West London to East London. It's a massive, it's a massive cultural change. Let's be honest. But yeah, I think it's a very good signing from a footballing perspective. From his interviews, he seems quite hungry. He seems like he wanted to play for us, which is also a good bonus. But yeah, let's just give Cresswell a bit of competition. Let's give him a reason to fight for his place. And who knows, we might see an improved performance from Cresswell. When he inevitably starts on Sunday against Villa. Hopefully that gives him sort of a kick up the arse to say, right, they signed this guy to replace me. Essentially, I've got to step up now. But yeah, either way, it's more depth, and we'll talk about other potential signings coming in, but so far it's been you can't blame the owners. They've put their money where their mouth is. We've just got to actually start using these players now.
Yeah, definitely, and that brings us on quite nicely actually to the next question. So, Bill, we've obviously spent 138 million so far in this window. Obviously, the board have received, and quite rightly so, in my view, a lot of criticism in the past. But do you think that maybe they do deserve some credit for splashing the cash in this window and effectively backing Moyes?
For this window, yeah, but I mean, they're still in deficit in terms of how they've treated the fans and have been as owners of this football club. So over a 12-year period. So yeah, okay, fair enough. But how long did it take for them to get a chief scout or head of recruitment person in Rob Newman? How long? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's not well.
And they sacked him, didn't they? Because they didn't like him.
Well, yeah, but certainly no one of Newman's caliber anyway. So okay, the money's been put there, fine, but in terms of GSB and that, I think my opinion, I'm sure the majority of fans is still the same.
Yeah, definitely. And Jeff, what are your thoughts on the window so far? Obviously, we've signed 7 new players. Do you think that's going to be the end of our business, or do you think that we're gonna press on and maybe look to bring in another couple of players?
Well, I think just following on quickly to what you're discussing with Bill there, I just think that yes, we've signed 7 players. They've put some cash on the table, but they're just playing catch up. That they've stripped us back so far that we've just completely run out of steam. We could have won that. We could have won the Europa, no problem. Yeah. We'd have won that with this squad we have now. We'd have if we done this last summer when it was really needed. We'd have probably won it.
And January, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So they're only really playing catch up. I mean, we should have 2 left backs. We should have 2 strikers. We should have 3 or 4 strikers. So it's hard to say credit where it's due because they're just doing really the bare minimum, but they're just doing it all in one go, scattergun, instead of having a long-term approach of building that squad over the course of 3 or 4 seasons. We've just got 7 new arrivals in all in one go, which is going to take time to bed in, and it's not really going to do us any favours, but it had to be done. So obviously I'm glad that the new players are here now. I don't know if we're going to see any more signings. I wouldn't have thought so. I think they've got about as much depth as they're ever going to want to have to pay for in every position. So I don't really see any more additions. I mean, with Ben Rama, Fornals, Lanzini, unless one of them's leaving, then I don't see him bringing in another creative midfielder. So, yeah, I'd say this is basically 5 or 6 transfer windows in one. And it's probably finished, I'd imagine.
Just quickly, Mark. I definitely, when I said that they've obviously put their money where their mouth is. I mean, that firstly definitely doesn't exonerate them for everything else that they've. I mean, honestly, the Viborg game. I think obviously there was train strikes and everything like that, but just the general feeling in that game, from the stewarding to the prices to the just atmosphere, it was just all very, very off, and it put it in stark sort of detail that this regime is still very much in control. And also, Jeff, we're forgetting that Kretinsky is now essentially a main stakeholder in this club. So how much credit do GSB really deserve? Is it Kretinsky money that started to prop us up a little bit? Who knows?
Point.
Great point. Great shout. Obviously, I must confess that when I wrote these questions out earlier on today, this was before X's update. So I've got obviously briefly here with the obviously it seems like we've made a bid for the player from Lyon, Lucas Paquette, I think you pronounce it. And obviously we're
Paqueta.
Thank you. And we're chasing Hans Vanaken, I think, from Bruges. Dennis, should we be going all out for these 2 guys, or should we be maybe looking at a slightly closer look to home? Obviously, we've been linked with Conor Gallagher. Obviously, saw that Chelsea signed a player from Inter Milan the other day, or obviously we've been linked with Maitland-Niles as well. Or do you think we should be going all out?
If Paqueta is available and wants to come, it's literally a no-brainer. The guy's money, absolute money, and the Belgian lad, he looks solid, captain of the team. Think he'd be a big personality leader in the dressing room. Obviously, can't predict that. I see both of them being good signings for us. Admittedly, I concede I haven't seen the Belgian lad play, but YouTube is the mother of all bleep ups if you want to judge a player on that. Although the only thing I would say is that his ball control looks pretty good. I'm not looking at the finishing. I'm not looking at the his spatial awareness because it is the Belgian Premier League, but he looks like he controls the ball 10 times better than Soucek's. That's good enough for me. Bear in mind, this is similar. I remember, keeps very brief, when we were linked with Coquelin from Arsenal. I remember at work going, an Arsenal fan goes, he's 2 questions because we need someone to replace Chiatti. Can he run in a straight line? No, can he run? And then can he run in a straight line? That is all I ask from a central midfielder. And he said, yeah, he can do both. Like, yeah, just sign him. Please, West Ham, just sign Coquelin, just so Chiatti doesn't have to play for us anymore. This is in around the time of the Shrewsbury game, if you remember that one, where we just sort of.
Oh yeah, what a bad game in the memory bank.
He just lolloped back.
Yeah,
anyway.
Do you remember that one, Jeff?
I do remember that one.
Josh Cullen lost a tooth or something, didn't he? But back to the thing. I mean, Conor Gallagher. I mean, the problem with going for Conor Gallagher and dealing with Chelsea is that any deal with Chelsea for Brozier, be it Conor Gallagher, is going to have to be a bargaining chip for selling Declan Rice. And another topic for another day. But I think most fans accept that he probably will go next summer. But you don't want to be in a bargaining position where Chelsea are saying, "Okay, well, we'll let you have Gallagher on loan with an option to buy for 35 million, but we want Rice for 90 million next year." You want to be able to turn around and go, no, we want to name the price for Declan Rice next year.
Yeah, but that weren't mentioned, Dennis, when we bought Zuma last season.
But I don't think that they were prepared to make the bit. For example, maybe they just inquired and Rice was like, "Oh yeah, no, not interested." Whereas things could have changed. I'm just saying, I just wouldn't want that chance. That's why I don't understand this fascination with Conor Gallagher this summer. That, in my opinion, is next summer's signing. So therefore, maybe you can name the price and have him as a bargaining chip next summer. Don't have the ball in Chelsea's court this summer. Personal opinion here.
Gallagher's probably got dodgy knees as well, to be fair, Bill.
We certainly didn't running around for Palace in England last season.
Yeah.
A session at Rush Green, he will definitely.
Definitely.
Oh,
Especially
yeah,
after
just get changed
David Sullivan.
Just get
David
changed to
Sullivan
the
gets the
porter
bomb
cabins.
and gets the doldrums car and starts ramming him against the wall like he did Zuma in his medical. But yeah, I just think Paqueta is just too good a quality signing. I mean, he's probably the player we all thought and hoped Anderson would be. He's already got the relationship with Emerson. I personally don't see it happening though. But I would pull out all the stops for it to happen. I do worry that this is a case of where we're being sounded out to find out how much it will cost. And then the agent will then be like, Chelsea, Arsenal, you want him? Newcastle, do you want him? I think it happens a lot in football. I just think we need to act very fast and not be West Ham. To reference one of the Shrek films, for 5 minutes, David Sullivan, don't be yourself. Just let other people run the transfer and sign the player. For once, I just want him as far away from it as possible.
It was quite telling, though, Dennis, that David Moyes confirmed the bid today. I found that quite telling, actually.
For me, there's an element, and I'm a cynical bugger. I do think there may be an element of to keep the fans preoccupied, like go out and tell them confirm we bid for him, and that way, if it doesn't work out, it's like, well, we did actually bid for him because of all the abuse we got for the alleged phantom bids for Rafinha and Phillips in January. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the reason of he's getting it out there, so fans know that we actually are trying to bid for him. So there's none of this, oh, well, we got lied to sort of type thing. Because there's no other logical reason for him to say it. Because if it's progressing well, why would he confirm it and alert other clubs? I don't know. I don't know why. For logical, David
Moyes has been in the game long enough to know what to say in press conferences. So
that's what I mean. And that's why
he must know that the player is interested in coming.
Possibly,
he wouldn't have said. He would have denied it otherwise.
Well, yeah, but I like the fact that David Moyes keeps it stum and denies it and plays coy. I like it that he doesn't give off. He doesn't give off hints and things like that. It could be that we're told the player wants it, but who knows? Agent could be pulling our chain. I don't know. It just seems a little too good to be true. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the amount of journalists that have Dharma Chef and David Ornstein. Do you know what I mean? This is no phantom.
No, I'm not saying it's a phantom bid. I think it's a genuine bid. I just think it's too good to be true. I think that someone else will come in for him and snap him up. I mean, we had similar stuff with Bakker when we tried to get Bakker for so long, and in the end,
enough about him. Still got PTSD about that. But
he's just using us for a better deal at Milan.
I think Paqueta is an outstanding statement of a sign if we manage to get him over the line. We saw him in both legs last season against Lille, and he's obviously technically gifted. He's been capped a lot by Brazil, can fulfill a number of midfield duties, so he's a kind of ball playing creative player which we need.
But is he better than Souček, Bill?
Maybe not heading the ball, but I like to think he won't fall over the ball when he got the ball at his feet.
Mate, Charles, I'll get Jill Scott out of retirement and put her in centre mid ahead of Souček at this rate.
And if he is signed, I won't pronounce his name and embarrass myself again. One response from all of you: who would you sell, Lanzini or Fornals, to make way for him in the squad?
Lanzini.
Wouldn't sell anyone.
I wouldn't sell either of them, mate. We need as much players as we got, and if the money's there, because we've always pled poverty, mate. We've always, end up spending about 10, 15 million pound net spend, especially with the Sullivan specials, where it's like they say it's a 40 million pound deal, but really it's 25 million hard money with add-ons, and it's 5 installments of 5 million. So each year's budget is just 5 million. It wouldn't surprise me if this is just a nest egg that they've squirreled away all the money. And now Krasinski's there to back up if clear some debt if things do go south, like it did with Pellegrini. They're going, you know what? There's 100 million, for example, and this is just because a good player's come available. We're now going, okay, for this player, we will spend the extra money. That's probably what's going on. This is definitely not a phantom bid. I just think it's too good to be true, mate.
Fair enough. So we're gonna end the show with asking the lads who their first West Ham hero was. Sort of maybe the one that was either maybe a special moment in a game or just a special memory in general. Bill, we'll start off with you. Who was that player for you?
Paulo Di Canio. First game I went to was the 5-4 game against Bradford in 2000. An epic game, and obviously you scored the penalty, and I was the one who wanted to get subbed off after being. To be fair, it looked like been fouled 3 times in the box without getting a penalty, and obviously Paulo was a hero to a lot of many West Ham fans, and with his obviously the way he played, his goal scoring, technical ability, just his real passion for football and for West Ham. So definitely him, and maybe one of his teammates, Joe Cole, I'd say as well. Di Canio for me.
Brilliant choices. Jeff, who is it for you?
Well, to not recycle Bill, I'd probably go more in recent times with Carlos Tevez, just because that season, that great escape was incredible, and we all knew he had it in his locker, and he had such a slow start, didn't he? And then just bosh, that free kick against Spurs, it just kick-started him, didn't it? And I thought he was fantastic. And he was only with us for a short amount of time, and I don't think anyone could possibly ever make such a big impression in such a short amount of time. So I think he's actually a West Ham, not going to go legend, I'm going to go hero. He's a West Ham hero. I love him, and that'll be my pick.
Another great choice. And Charles, who is it for you?
Well, it was a tough choice between 2. One of them was potentially going to be Noble, but in the end, I had to go with Dean Ashton. I just remember, I'm still pretty young when he obviously joined, and he was just everything. He was just someone that you loved watching. Whenever he got the ball, or you knew he was going to do something. I always maintained that he would have been an England regular had he not suffered that devastating injury. But the things that he managed to do for us, goal scoring wise, again, they were probably dented by his injury as well. But yeah, I look back at his time with us very fondly. I just remember following it through from him signing from Norwich, and then just going on and having a really decent career with us. So Dino was my West Ham hero, I'd say.
Great stuff. And Dennis, who is it for you?
I mean, I'm sorry, I am going to have to parrot Bill, because it 1,000,000% was Paulo Di Canio. I remember my first game was the 1-0 win at Chelsea in the relegation run-in, because we narrowly missed out on getting Middlesbrough tickets, and I was devastated. So my dad went above and beyond to get us the cheapest, or the tickets that were available for general sale still for that Chelsea game. So I was there for his last goal at Upton Park. I don't quite remember the goal happening because I couldn't see much, because we were quite high up. We were high up, but yeah, I was there for that. Obviously, shame about everything that came out of him after his retirement, with his links to Mussolini supporters and whatnot. But yeah, absolutely Paulo Di Canio every day of the week. I mean, in retrospect, I quite liked Berkovic, but I'll admit that I didn't watch West Ham out and out that season. I just toyed with them. Actually, how I became a West Ham fan was because Di Canio scored a goal against Man United, which cost my dad a bet, and I was grounded, and I was mad at my dad, and he wouldn't let me support Watford because they'd always let you down, and he wanted me to be a Man United fan, and I used his own logic against him to say, well, Man United let you down, so I can't support Man United. I'm going to support West Ham. And my dad eventually conceded that I'd be a West Ham fan. So, Di Canio is actually... Well, Di Canio and Davor Suker are the reason I am a West Ham fan. Although I did sort of support them the season before. Just I was having Man United pushed on me pretty hard.
Some great memories and great stories there. And
who's yours, Mark?
For me, I'm going way back. So my first season at West Ham was 1990.
I thought you were going to go with Martin Peters.
Look it.
Well, he's going to go for Bobby Moore.
My first hero was Stuart Slater. Although bizarrely, I think the following season I remember having Steve Potts on the back of my shirt. I think because I was a central defender as a kid, which obviously for those who've met me is probably a bit of a surprise hearing that, because I don't think I've grown.
Don't worry, mate. I played in goal in year 7.
Okay, they've got Lissandro Martinez over here.
Yeah.
Left back in the changing rooms.
So there we go, lads. Thanks very much, obviously, for coming on today. And as I say, that wraps up another All Things West Ham episode on the West Ham Way YouTube channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And all that leaves me to say is, come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons.
How on you, Irons?